Regulate or perish. I thought of this title after channeling Arthur Calwell. He was Australia's first immigration minister who led a campaign to repopulate the country after World War II, and it's called Populate or Perish. Australia was at a real inflection point, a real crossroads. There was just 7 million people living here at the time. We desperately needed more people for defence and to improve our economic prospects. We're at a crossroads in the world now because there are grave consequences if nations in the global community don't effectively regulate digital technology. We need rules and standards to overcome the dangerous impacts of digital technologies such as AI so that we can reap the benefits without the problems. That's notwithstanding the great work going on in this area by companies now that Saeed showed us, but society overall needs trust and assurance. Of course, the current hot issue is artificial intelligence, with generative AI engines in the spotlight. There's ChatGPT, and of course what Microsoft is doing using ChatGPT, and separately Google Bard in the pipeline, but there's plenty of others around and plenty across the world. We've had problems right from the start in regulation of digital technologies at a society level. We've often drifted along without realising the consequences until later of some of the technology that we've implemented. With smartphones, for example, the world drifted into accepting a trade-off of forgoing our privacy in return for free Android software. Without us really deliberately agreeing to anything, our personal privacy was the big loser, and we've been trying to reclaim it ever since. Governments and societies generally fell behind in addressing the pitfalls of digital technology, social media and the internet. There was gaming addiction, cyberbullying, online-induced depression, online fraud, invasions of privacy, hacking, viruses and ransomware attacks, identity theft and threats to national security with unrelenting cyber attacks. With AI, we can't afford to be behind the ball. We have to get ahead of the game. I want to mention two cases I followed as a journalist where lengthy attempts at regulation of tech and tech firms was slow and frustrating, and still is, before coming back to generative AI. One was tax havens. Big tech, we covered this because big tech was involved with tax havens, and they were able to implement massively profitable business models and pay minimal tax. I'm not against big tech making profits, don't get me wrong, but some of the massive revenue should have gone to national tax regimes that generate funding for our health and emergency services, education and aged care. Tech giants, of course, are only one of the many types of big organisations that use these havens. Ireland was named as a tax haven by the US IRS way back in 1981. This is a decades-old problem. Ireland happens to be one of my favourite countries. Some of my ancestors came from there. I spent time in Ireland earlier this year and had a long exchange with one of those fantastic, knowledgeable Dublin walking tour guides who was full bottle on the tax haven issue. However, in 2021, Ireland and around 135 other jurisdictions signed up to a long negotiated OECD global tax deal that was supposed to overcome this issue. The countries agreed to a minimum 15% tax rate and the distribution of large corporate profits above a certain level to countries where they sell goods and services. But implementation is problematic. For example, the re-elected US House of Representatives is having second thoughts, worried about giving new authority to Australian competitors. That's how it sees it, to tax American companies. And so it goes, with momentum stalling despite the huge effort by the OECD over a long period. So if you watch these regulation issues, they can be at global level, they can go on for years and years and years and not get anywhere. Space is another area where regulation is proving hard. Collisions of satellites in space are becoming more likely, yet humankind now is launching thousands upon thousands of low-orbiting LEO satellites. The number of these satellites has exploded from about 700 in 2020 to a predicted 5,000 by year's end, and a projection of 30 to 50,000 by 2030. Last week, I spoke with Australia's Gilmore Space Technology. It said it used to receive about 1 satellite collision warning per year. That has jumped to 3 to 4 collision warnings per year per satellite. If we worry about the damage caused by a bullet travelling around 300 metres per second, consider the damage inflicted by a larger LEO satellite travelling around 7 kilometres per second. Meanwhile, there remains no uniform approach to deorbiting LEO satellites at end of life. So we've got to get satellites out of space when their time is up. These satellites are becoming an integral part of our day-to-day technology. They offer internet services and collect ground-based data. You'll soon be making satellite calls from your regular smartphone. You won't need a special satellite phone via a LEO satellite from almost anywhere on the planet. British company Bullet and Motorola have announced satellite-based texting services from any part of Australia sometime this year. They're already in Europe and other parts of the world, while Telstra and Ericsson, Qualcomm and Samsung are working in this space. Earlier this year, I interviewed the Taiwanese mobile chip designer MediaTek, which is making the chips for Bullet, Motorola and others. It says within 3 years we'll make decent quality video calls from anywhere on Earth from an ordinary smartphone, whether there are Earth-based networks or not. I saw their demonstration of this a couple of months ago. As for aid satellites, Gilmore says different countries are taking different approaches to deorbiting them. In the US, the FCC last year adopted a rule requiring satellites to be orbited within 5 years of end of life, replacing the current 25 years. But that enforceability of this globally remains to be seen. Gilmore says commercial enterprises are way ahead of governments in implementing standards. There is also the countries that won't play by the rules. Uniform regulation still has a long way to go. At the moment, it's like everyone's driving on a highway, but they're applying the road rules of their own individual country. So space is a really big, important issue where regulation has gone on for years. But now AI, the question of whether it poses an existential threat and much needed regulation. This issue of an existential threat was recently in the news because of a shortly worded statement signed by academics, researchers and IT professionals, including executive members of OpenAI, which developed ChatGPT. This scared the hell out of a lot of people, but they are not the first to say it. Health professionals from the UK, US and Australia warned of AI being an existential threat just a month ago in a journal article. AI can vastly amplify human endeavour to achieve all kinds of goals, good and bad. That's the truth of it. As well as offering advances in medicine and health, manufacturing, engineering, research, banking and finance, AI can be used in warfare with devastating results. University of New South Wales Professor of Artificial Toby Walsh indeed has been talking about the existential threat for years, advocating an international ban on AI-aided warfare. He's written books about it. This kind of concept is not new. Using image recognition, AI could more accurately identify targets for nuclear missiles. AI-enhanced tanks, guns and robots were being developed by Russian weapons maker Kalashnikov 6 years ago, although thankfully we've seen little of them in action to date. You could develop an autonomous doomsday submarine that uses AI with image recognition and heat sensing technology to seek out and destroy all human-operated shipping it comes across. The recent claim by the health professionals is explicit about the problems they are concerned about. There's threats caused by AI errors in medical and public health applications, the use of AI to control and manipulate people online, the impact on public order caused by troves of AI-generated misinformation, deepfake videos and mental health issues caused by unemployment where AI systems displace workers. There's the dystopian fear of AI developing incredible intelligence beyond our comprehension and fully tasked with human guidance. There's a coming massive boost quantum computing will bring to machine learning and to all kinds of AI applications, good and bad. There's also the attacks on AI itself that Saeed covered earlier, such as data poisoning. The more immediate fear to me is AI is under the control of nefarious humans, adapting it to the darkest applications. So I'm saying, yeah, these are real concerns, but we shouldn't be sidetracked from using AI and regulating it for the things that it's going to benefit us all. We shouldn't ignore this, but we should get on with the job. Organisations have been banning ChatGPT in the news. We've seen them because they worry about breaches of personal privacy, inadvertent leaks of company IP, the inaccuracy of information in the trading data, and the legal implications if their company publishes factually wrong or defamatory information. Fortunately, enterprises will not have to use the exact model devised by OpenAI for public use, with its vast amounts of unverified and blatantly wrong information and a lack of transparency. They will be able to contract AI developers to configure carefully trained generative AI equivalents, trained on factually verified data, and with an assurance that confidential material won't leak into public domain. It is, thankfully, an open model. OpenAI itself has foreshadowed a business version of ChatGPT that it says will offer enterprises greater control of their data. There's Microsoft and a wealth of other developers who will create more secure models. Nevertheless, public regulations and standards will be vital for us to trust AI. For example, suppliers of commercial AI systems might have to provide details of how the AI was trained, the origins of the data it uses, and guarantees around data privacy, accuracy, and the protection of an organisation's IP and system security. That's one way anyway. Misinformation remains a huge threat to public cohesion and national security. We've seen how masses of online misinformation helped spark the US Capitol riots and the impact of misinformation around vaccinations during the pandemic. It is dangerous stuff. That's not just a problem domestically. With ChatGPT and other models available in more than 50 countries already, there is the prospect of AI triggering military conflicts founded on misunderstandings and the lies amplified by AI. Yes, amplified fake news could start real wars. These AI systems need regulation across the globe. There is work underway. We've mentioned before the two federal government AI papers and necessary regulation rather than alarmism about existential threats. That is the way forward. The Australian Chief Scientist's Rapid Response Report on Generative AI raises questions like, do we even have the compute power, skills, expertise and workforce development strategies to fully utilise it? What about our robotics industry too? How will it impact health, social services, law enforcement, social inequalities, public dialogues in our democratic systems and jobs? Add in AI-generated deepfake videos, and can we trust anything we see or read online? It also worries about the development and research around this being concentrated in a small number of firms and countries. What does this mean for competition, our economy, indeed our notion of being a clever country if it's coming from offshore? The Safe and Responsible AI in Australia discussion paper is similarly concerned about the ability of AI to generate deepfakes, to influence democratic processes, to create misinformation, to encourage people to self-harm, and inbuilt gender and racial bias. It asks questions, should job applicants know that AI is part of their selection process? There are so many of these questions. Fortunately, there are organisations in Australia getting on with the job now. This week I was contacted by the National Association of Testing Authorities, which is looking at risk and governance across sectors, including AI. It recommends, among other things, that organisations train all levels of staff on the implications of using AI in the workplace and ensure there are processes for adapting and continually monitoring AI projects. Generative AI also will force us to update our laws. Take defamation and copyright. It might be hard to trace where defamatory information spewed out by an AI system originally came from. Will the law be clear that the developers of an AI system are legally liable if it throws up defamatory information about one person to another? Can a person sue when someone publishes defamatory information obtained from a generative AI system? On copyright and privacy, can we restrict systems from being trained on private data owned by others? Can originators build AI systems for using their data or sue them for using it without authorisation? Will they even know? Can we even identify where data is ingested by an AI system? In Australia, we've already had the case of Brian Hood, the Mayor of Victoria's Hepburn-Shire, whom ChatGPT labelled as a convicted criminal in a foreign bribery scandal, where in fact he was a whistleblower. He was threatening legal action when this story broke in April, I think. Yes, you publish what ChatGPT throws up at your peril. In May, a man was arrested in China after he used ChatGPT to generate a fake story about a train crash. It attracted thousands of clicks. In the end, we need to operate at multiple levels. At one level, addressing the long-term evils that AI can be capable of. I take the existential threat notion seriously, but I don't think it's worth panicking about. At another level, we regulate the AI we use day to day to gain from its benefits while minimising its downside. We need to act with haste, domestically and globally. Thank you very much.